Welcome back to Dragoon X Omega 2. Last time we in the Aqueduct picked up the card key. Now we are back here in the Slag Mine where we are going to access the control room for the Railjet. The Railjet is another kind of vehicle in this game that travels along the rails that we've seen, and we've heard about the Railjets. It's been inoperative for quite some time according to these robots, and we need to just jump in there. And it seems like the robots before have said that this technology is inaccessible to you. We are not going to allow you to jump in on our technology, and it sounds now like he who controls the card key can go ahead and jump in. So they've certainly changed their tune here because we have picked up that card key and we now have access to the Railjet. So the Railjet's going to open up a few new areas. Now we are going to look at a lot of different parts of the game. So if you have that, then by all means enter the control room. There we go. So we're going to activate the Railjet, except no dice. We have to fight the Mecha. So instead of activating the Railjet, we are met with a computer defense system. This is a kind of a classic Final Fantasy and Square game trope. We kind of think about it in like Chrono Trigger. When you try to unlock Robo or rescue Robo, he gets attacked by the other robots who think he's defective. This one is a pretty quick boss battle for us at the levels that we are. So the Railjet is turned on, and we are told, here we go, Dock 1 is 17 cons northeast from the southern entrance. So it does help us out to let us know where the Railjet starts. And I think it's really interesting how the Railjet is gated here, so we can access that now and go to the few different Railjet docks in this game. It's not like an airship where we can land on any continent that we want. There are a finite number of discrete stations from which you can board or dismount the Railjet. So we are going to head to the southern entrance of the robots here, and we're going to head up to the Railjet. So there's a few places we can access with the Railjet now. And I'll let you know the first one we're going to access is an information dump. It's a place where we unlock some lore of the game. So I am going to put some timestamps down here in the description of this one. I know that usually is not something that I do, but because we look at so many different things in this video, there will be some timestamps down there. So as of this moment, we are heading for some lore, and I'll explain the lore as best I can as we look at some of the lore on the computer monitors. But if you'd like to jump onto the next dungeon, look down to the description where I'll have some of the timestamps. Meanwhile, we are heading to the west, where we're going to pick up some lore. And we've heard about this place before, this repository of knowledge. And this building here, we don't seem to have whatever we need to enter that building. And it's maybe part of a side quest. That could actually be the reactor that we've heard about. But I have not, in real life, in real time, unlocked that or accessed that as of this recording. So we are going to jump into the repository. This robot's going to tell us about it. X5 is his name. And we've heard about other robots named. We've met X6 much earlier, and we're going to talk to X6 a little bit later. This is X5. There are some named robots in this game. They're not all just randos. So all of these monitors are lore. So this one is a little bit not in sequence, so I'm going to try to look at them if I can, find what the proper sequence is for that upper level and the lower level. So we're going to learn about the history of this game, going back to the first game, which I have not played. So we talk about Nika. Nika was the heroine of the original game. So the Psi abilities come from the descendants of Nika. EMP is an item that we're going to be picking up in the Armory. The Armory has the EMP that's going to let us unlock the final couple of dungeons. The Arc is powered by a singular drive, so we have to pick up a power source to get to the Arc. Now, the Arc is what connects this planet with the previous planet where the monsters and Psi users came from. So there's a gate that's been sealed, and we need to access the Arc to allow us to get there and face the Neverborn. So some people fled to the south and built the Great Divide, and others stayed north of the Great Divide and fought the hordes of monsters that are called the Plague. So we came from south of the Great Divide, and we have broken through it. So there's a small city in the Ark, according to this. The Neverborn's minions attacked the Amnithians mercilessly. They would not touch Nika, so Nika was special. for the monsters coming out of the Ark. And this all happened again long in the past. We are now the long-distant descendants, or dealing with the long-distant descendants of Nika. So she will come up again. She will be mentioned again. So there's the distant planet where our ancestors came from. Shurik was besieged by creatures that lived in the Ark. Then they left that planet. The Neverborn was defeated by Nika. The Meta Knight, I like her. The Wrath of the Old Enemies still lives on. And Nika sealed the creatures in the Ark. And then as the people left the Ark, Mecha of this country was born, this modern country here. The teleporter is what can take us to the Ark, and that's what actually needs its power source, which we'll be exploring here later. Waves of beasts came before, and this is the one we looked at first. So beasts were coming out, and then the teleporter was disabled to stop the beasts from coming, but many of the beasts still roam the world. So the people north of the Great Divide are now ruin explorers who are fighting beasts and picking up pieces of ancient technology. So that's kind of a very, very rough walkthrough of the lore of this game. Much of the lore of this game I picked up from the Wikia page, which I will also put a link to in the description of this video in addition to the timestamps. So the Wikia page has the narrative of the story that's told sort of in a walkthrough of the game, but it's not a specific walkthrough. It's told in a narrative way. So you can find a little bit about the major events of the story in that Wikia. Also, the history of the story going back to the first game, Dragoon X Omega. So heading north here, we're just exploring. This is the Ice Lab. We're going to come back there because the Ice Lab is where the teleporter lives. And we can't get through the Ice Lab without the EMP, and we can't open the teleporter or operate the teleporter without its power source. So we need to go back there in a little while. We're going to head down here to the southeast. First to the Armory, where we're going to pick up the EMP. And I'm going to double check everything. We're going to save. We're going to heal up. Well, I guess we don't heal up. We just jump right down into the Armory. So the Armory is kind of a maze with some treasure chests. And at the bottom, we're going to pick up the EMP as the goal in here. I do enjoy the enemy names in this game. I wish there was, or I haven't found yet, a comprehensive guide with full enemy stats. I'm a numbers nerd when it comes to old Japanese RPGs like this, so I do enjoy looking at algorithms guides or complete guides to games to kind of see the numbers behind everything, but I'm not knowledgeable enough, sadly, in dumping ROMs to actually create those kinds of things myself. So I do always rely on other good people on the internet to do that. And then Final Fantasy I, of course, is a very, very well documented game. And, of course, many classic 8 and 16-bit RPGs are well documented as well. So they're very interesting to look at the mechanics of them and look at enemy numbers. But the knowledge of Final Fantasy I has some interesting things in this game because you can see what your damage is going to look like, based on your damage values here. Of course, it's between your damage value and 2 times the damage value minus the absorb and armor. So it's nice that all those things work similarly. So here's another mecha, or if you remember, this was just the boss of the previous one. So I don't know if I could have retreated from that mecha or if that's a different kind of mecha. Right there, if that's a different enemy or if it's the same enemy and I could have just hit escape. Generally in Final Fantasy I, a battle is either always escapable or always inescapable, and I should even say generally. That is a fact in FF1. Whenever an enemy formation is pulled from the table, it is either listed as escapable or not. So one of the reasons is that that later on in the game, the wizard enemies in Final Fantasy I are inescapable is because they appear as a boss tile, a sort of boss. They're not a sprite-initiated encounter, but they're a boss tile in front of the crown in the Marsh Cave. So anytime you fight wizards, groups of wizards, it just pulls from that same enemy formation, and it's always inescapable, even when they are just on a random floor. And I'm thinking about the very dangerous floor on the Earth Cave that a lot of speedrunners have to route their encounter map around seeing wizards there. So here's a new gun, the Pulse Rifle. I'm just double checking. 5331 is my damage and my hit percentage. 5331. And now it is 4527, so this one is not quite as strong as my Vulcan rifle, so I'm going to go back to that. Interestingly, and I'm sure this is deliberate, we have not gotten over the 32% hit threshold. That's where you get an extra hit in Final Fantasy 1. It's kind of like in the older editions of Dungeons & Dragons. When your base attack reaches a certain value, you then get a second swing per round when your base attack reaches a certain value. This one does it by hit percent. So we have not yet gotten to where we can get 2 hits and 2 attempts. And that really is a big boost because the way criticals work in this game, where criticals will ignore defense and have a big bonus. So criticals will cut through armor and have big bonuses. So a lot of enemies, the only way to really damage them, in Final Fantasy 1 anyway, is with critical hits. They'll have very high armor absorb rates. Here's Tyris, and Tyris is heading to the Ark, and he's going to try to revive the Neverborn. But first, he's going to try to take care of us, and we need to take care of him. The last time we saw Tyris was in the desert, in the Uris Desert, and Tyris had the really cool arm, the mutating arm that kind of reminded me of William Birkin from Resident Evil 2. Tyris was looking pretty good then. And he's looking pretty good now. The sprite work here on Tyris is good. He clearly has some kind of very large energy rifle there, and he's using the crash ability. And one of the things I would like to see in a guide, if I was to ever see one in this, is list of enemy spells and abilities, and see which ones count as spells, which ones count as abilities. Because spells and abilities are separate in Final Fantasy 1, although enemies don't have magic charges or magic points. And it in most battles doesn't really come into play for casual players. Maybe with the exception of the Chaos battle in Final Fantasy 1, where you want to try to watch Chaos's spell list because he has Cure 4 as I believe that's the 4th spell in his list. So you want to watch for when he's casting spells as to when he's using abilities, because he will work his way through the spell table. If he's going through his spells quickly, you often want to back off until after Cure 4, then start damaging him. But if he's chilling out using stuff like Swirl, then or Inferno or Crack, then you want to stay on him if he's using abilities. Anyway, so we're just we're trading blows here. Sargon is not super overpowered anymore. I have not done a lot of extra grinding in the last couple of videos, before the last couple of videos. So Sargon is, I believe the challenge level has now caught up to us. I should make another note to remind you, this is not including the easy patch for this game. This is the, I guess you could call it the vanilla version of this Romhack. It does not have the easy patch or any other additional patches to it. There is an experience easy patch. I don't know what all of the components of that easy patch are, but this is the base game. So there's a nice chunk of experience and gold, and we're going to pick up the key item, the EMP. We haven't seen it yet, but in the ice lab there is a laser gate that with beams of light that we need to short out those beams of light with the EMP. But you can see I'm still not leveled to a point where enemies aren't still running away from me when they're a little bit weaker. So the railgun is very interesting. As you look at it, we're going to look at the stats here. Its damage is 73, but its hit percent is only 2. So that means it's going to roll between 73 and 146. It's going to roll between that and twice that. But the hit percent is only 2. That doesn't mean it's only 2 out of 100. It's only adding that base to it. So it is going to hit enemies fairly often, but it definitely is not going to get that bonus extra hit, and it will miss more than other weapons will. But I do like that base attack value, especially because I'm going to be just fighting a lot of bosses. So we're still in the Armory, and I'm going to go into my menu, and I have a little bit of explaining to do right here. We put in a time jump. As I'm recording this, I have already finished this game without doing any of the things that you're about to see. This has all been recorded after I have finished this game, and you'll realize that I've made some kind of silly errors, because in the first floor of the Armory here, we are going to explore this little area, which I did not do on my first crawl of this. And in here is the Nanite. The Nanite is like the tail in Final Fantasy 1, where it allows us to class change, sort of. we are going to get nanobots implanted into us by a robot named X6, who a long time ago told us that he worked with ancient technology, but sadly doesn't have what he needs to work with it anymore. We found Nanite, and Nanite is what we need to bring to him to give us the upgrade to where we can learn the level 7 and level 8 Psi abilities. I need to give credit to Henki Kusuma Adi, that is Henki Kusuma Adi, a YouTuber who is the author of the only other Let's Play series here. So we've been upgraded. We are now going to have access to the level 7 and 8 Psi. So we now have nanobots implanted into us. But this player has made a series of Let's Plays, the only ones that I've been able to find in this game, besides the series that I'm working on. And it was in their videos that I found that that's what I needed to do to get the upgrade. So I beat the final boss with a pretty underpowered character, as I found out. We're heading back to the town south of the aqueduct here to pick up the level 7 fusions or 7 Psi abilities, just so you can see where those are. Now I'm going to make a jump to the Uris Desert to find the secret store where we can buy the level 8s. So right here, Aureus and Nova are the level 8 abilities. I don't have any level 8 charges right now, so even if I turned around and went back, I would need to gain a few levels to pick up level 8 charges. But that is the end of the buffing phase. So in the next video, we are going to be heading to the final dungeon and the final boss, not with our upgraded Sargon, sadly. We're going there with the pre-class change Sargon, but I did want to show you where those were. So we're going to be heading on in the next video to the Ice Lab, to the Teleporter, to the Ark, and to fight the Neverborn. If you've enjoyed this series of videos, please let me know by leaving a comment. You can also get in touch with me on Twitter, where I'm also active_ATE, and we will see you next time for the final battle.